A good evening to everyone watching. Welcome back to Unfiltered Conversations. It has been a very long time since we've done one of these, and I'm very, very excited to be back talking to you all today. With me, I have Anthony Trusso and Walt Young. Guys, say hello. You guys are live.
How are you?
You see how enthusiastic Anthony is over there?
Hmm.
Just, man, we got to do one of these again. But again, folks, thank you guys if you're just tuning in live with us, or if you're listening later on Spotify or watching on YouTube. This is the first one we've done in over a year. Been a long time coming to get back to doing this again regularly, and we're looking forward to doing that. So now all that housework's out of the way. We're doing a cool one today. Something I don't know anything about, and that's really interesting. That I had the opportunity to talk to Anthony a little bit and come up with this idea to talk about the Easter Rising of 1916. And these guys are going to know a lot more than I am, so I'm really going to kind of be in the background today and learning on what's going on here in 1916 to cause this. Because as far as I know, I'm thinking it's the Easter Bunny running around Ireland or something. I have no idea, and I purposely didn't do any research today to get a knowledge because Anthony's a great teacher and Walt is as well. So I want to give them the opportunity to do this again. It looks like Walt is having some camera issues, but Walt, can you hear us
I
okay? Can you
am.
talk? You can. Okay.
I
Um,
think I think I can talk.
okay. And if you need to back out and come back in at any point, you're good to do so. But
Yep.
it's nice to see you too. But if we have to hear you, we
Hmm.
can hear you. That works for me.
Okay, sounds good.
All right, guys. So I'm going to go ahead and back us up here. Anthony, do you want to start us off today and kind of give us a backstory as to what the heck is going on?
First of all, is there anybody watching? If you are watching, can you leave a comment so I know that there are lives out there that are listening to this live? I guess I don't know why that doesn't let you see people watching it right now. Are there people watching? I don't know. I know
We'll
Walt
see.
isn't. His screen is blank.
Yeah, we'll be fine.
Has anybody out there heard of the Easter Rising?
I
Right,
told
it's
you
an
I
event
haven't,
in April of 19.
and people that are listening
Walt, have
later don't
you?
know either. So have at it, man. I'm excited. Or maybe some people do. I don't know.
So it's an event that well, chime in if you do. If Darren's out there watching from England, sorry. Actually, no. Good for him because they kill a whole bunch of Irishmen. But in the end,
Might not
he
work
won.
well in the long run. I was gonna say.
Yeah, great. Um, so it's an event in April of 1916 that basically starts this. Well, it already started the trend towards Irish independence, but it helps. I mean, it strikes the iron while England is distracted in trying to create this new country. Um, we have somebody here who's never heard of the topic and is ready to rock and roll. Do you see that over on Facebook?
Hmm.
So thanks for chiming in. Um, so where do you want to start? Do you want Walt to kick? I mean, there's all the rebellions of 1803 and
Anthony, I
1788.
have no
Yep.
idea. You guys are my experts. This is you. This is your spotlight.
Tone.
Yeah, I'd be happy to. I'd be happy
Well,
to.
let's jump.
All right, well, where's
Let's,
your
let's jump a little bit. Let's,
Yeah.
let's, let's go to about the 1860s, right? You have all these attempts for pushing for Irish independence. You have all these attempts for because 1803 you have the Union Act, right, that creates the United Kingdom of Great Britain and what? What does it create? It creates the United Kingdom of Great Britain and
And Ireland at that point, right?
Ireland. Right? There's no Northern Ireland yet, right? So there's this whole idea of being nice to the people in Ireland. Um, while this is going on, let's fast forward a little more. You got more rebellions. 1848, you got another one. The 1840s, right? You have another one. And then you have this branch of violent independence seekers, right? Called the Fenians, right? The whole idea that they want to create in Ireland, a free Ireland, but how they see about doing it is violently, right? And you have a lot of these people that also fought in the American Civil War. And there's a couple of times where, after the Civil War in the late 1860s, when Irish people in Canada, there's going to be fighting on the Canadian and American border there between Irish people and Americans, right? And Irvin McDowell
Hmm.
of Manassas, Spain, George Meade, a whole bunch of others are all fighting up there at that point. Um, let's turn it over to Walt for a little bit, some support stuff.
Yeah. So
before we jump.
So one connection that we have to the American Civil War with the Irish rebellions is going to be the 1848 Young Ireland Rebellion, and that's going to eventually lead a couple people who become well known both in American circles and in Irish circles, like Thomas More.
I was just about to ask you,
William
was Thomas
McGraw, and a few
More
people.
amongst them?
Yes.
Yeah.
So. 1848 is a big year for revolutions across Europe. You've got France, you've got beginnings of modern day Germany, you got Hungary, Italy, I think, and you've also got, of course, the potato famine going on in Ireland. That is like fueled by British government mismanagement and is killing 1 million Irish people. So you've got conditions that are in some ways ripe for a rebellion, which these guys certainly think. But you've also got the impediment to rebellion that large numbers of the people who you might want to fight for you are literally starving. So you wouldn't have a very well-fed or well-organized start at a rebellion. Nevertheless, these guys are going to try. They are not, and this speaks to some of the things that'll be a little bit different from the Easter Rising later on. Their home base ends up being in very southern Ireland, near Kilkenny and in County Tipperary, which is not exactly the British capital or really a power center. And I'm going to say they're not the most organized people in the world. They are going to basically attempt to take over an area of County Tipperary. They end up at a place called Ballingarry. They basically block a British constabulary building and then end up taking a very small force, about 2,000 people elsewhere. But of those 2,000 people, most of them are not like actively involved. Most of them are kind of just around. And they end up having a final confrontation at a farmhouse that ends up being called by a London, so unsympathetic newspaper, as the Battle of Widow McCormick's Cabbage Patch. So they end up
battle I have ever heard. I'm sorry. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So they pretty quickly get captured. Now this is relevant to us for a couple of reasons. One is that it is going to end up leading to the careers of some pretty well-known American Civil War folks, and most notably Thomas More. More, Mitchell, and a few other people ending up getting imprisoned in Tasmania, like off of Australia.
Yeah, they're all, because there's an exile of some of these convicts, right? Like they're all sent to Tasmania because of.
And they managed to escape and end up coming to New York. And Marr and Mitchell are kind of interesting, kind of dual paths. Marr ends up helping lead the Irish Brigade at Antietam, Fredericksburg. They get pretty cut apart. And Mitchell is going to be a Southern sympathizer whose son is firing on Fort Sumter. So in different ways, both the U.S. and the Confederacy will kind of link their struggle to the Irish. For the Confederates, Their claim is that, well, we're trying to throw off a government we don't like, so we're the Irish. For the Union, it's, I think, a little more in like everyone has these universal human rights, has the ability to pick their own government, eventually to be free from oppression by the end of the war. So you get both sides kind of laying claim in some ways to the Irish story. Awesome. There is one other connection. I know you can't see me, but there's one other connection that I have. And then I'm going to tell you who is saying this quote, kind of critiquing the 1848 revolutionaries once I give the critique. So he's going to say the following. I'm bringing up my primary source here. 1 second. He is going to say that while the people perished, the young islanders talked, and their talk was very beautiful, thoroughly grammatical, nicely polished, and the proper amount of passion introduced always at the proper psychological moment. But still, the people perished. He goes on to say that the revolutionaries, when they get arrested, don't end up attempting to lead a huge popular revolt. They end up basically accepting their role as martyrs in a way to imprisonment. That he says that some people present a manifesto to Thomas More and others, and they say, yeah, we don't need to be rescued at this time. And he critiques this a little bit. Now, the funny thing about this is that the author, this is written in 1910 in a book called Labor in Irish History. The author is a man named James Connolly. And he would eventually play a part in Anthony's story, somewhat ironically, serving as one of the very martyrs that he had critiqued in 1848.
Awesome.
The Scottishman, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The son of Edinburgh. The son of Edinburgh.
Yeah.
We did have another question over on Facebook here from Anthony M. Trusso. Were there any other countries involved?
We're not even there. We're not even there yet. We're not even there yet.
All right, we're going to table that one, and I'm going to put it back on there when we're ready for it because I want the answer to that too. Anthony, do you have anything for us to kind of start us off now?
Well, so let's get into a little bit of the origins, right? So at the heart of all of this, right, is the question of home rule. Are you familiar with home rule at all? The idea of home rule?
Vaguely, but if you want to provide a refresher.
Walt, you got anything?
I know of home rule as basically what the British government basically did for Canada, like being able to be a dominion that was somewhat apart from, like, that still would have a connection to the crown, but would be effectively self-governing at home.
So sort of like what would have happened probably to the United States had it not have gone as far as...
Have we not thrown the tea overboard?
Yeah, I was trying to be nice to our British friends, but yeah, have we not said to heck with the tea?
It arrives, it's through the House of Commons twice, right? The British Prime Minister that starts it is William Gladstone, right? It passes the House of Commons once, it goes down the hallway, and the House of Lords is like, screw you, right? Give it a couple more years, it goes to the House of Commons again, it passes in the House of Commons again, goes down the hallway, House of Lords again. They're like, screw you, right?
Yeah.
So by the time that it reaches now a third time, before it comes up a third time, the British Parliament, right, the House of Commons, which is the more powerful than the House of Lords, right? The Lords that are a stuffy old organization, the House of Commons that is actually government, or where government comes from, not necessarily government. They pass a law that basically gets rid of the Parliament Act of 1910 or so, that basically says to the House of Lords, your veto power is gone. The longest you can delay something is 4 years. So 1912, the House of Commons votes again on home rule. It passes. It goes down the hallway, and they say, wait 2 years. We're going to delay this 2 years. Okay? 1912 plus 2 years is?
1914.
Okay, so pause on that. Keep that in the back of your mind. Okay? What's going on the island of Ireland? Well, you have two different types of nationalism that are really starting to grow. On one side is, let's stay with England. On the other side is this growing fervor that's continued forever, right? Which is to say, let's break away and create our own independent island nation. So on the side of England, you have the Ulster Volunteer Force. And slowly on the pro-Ireland side, this idea of nationalism comes in the form of what ultimately, I mean, it's basically the Fenianism that grows into the Irish Republican Brotherhood, which is the brainchild of a Irish professor, I'm getting this right, Owen McNeill is the guy's name. So you have the UVF that forms, and then you have the Irish Volunteers. The Irish Volunteers. So the Irish Volunteers are on one side, which is against home rule, and Ulster Volunteers who are pro home rule, right? So you have folks that want to retain this connection with England, with Mother England, and you have this other side that want nothing to do with England. Now, Fenianism, right, that idea of creating some sort of Irish nation, right, these secret political organizations in the 19th century, early 20th century, had two principles, right? First, that Ireland had a natural right to independence. And second, more importantly, that this right to independence could only be won by what? By an armed revolution. Okay? And so it takes time for these people to find it, whenever England's difficulty strikes, will be Ireland's opportunity.
Right.
So by the time 1914 rolls around, you have the rise of the Irish Volunteers. You have the IRB, right, the secret military organization, political organization, and the old leadership of the IRB starts to get replaced by a new, younger group of enthusiastic people. Among them are, at this point, not really young fella, but among them is a guy named Thomas J. Clark, a tobacconist in Dublin, who had joined the Fenians in 1878, went to New York, went to London, was part of this dynamite campaign that it didn't really actually took place in, was sent to jail, and 15 years later came out. So he's the heart of this Fenianism. Another person that was big with this new rise of the Irish Republican Brotherhood was a guy named Sean McDermott, and I don't have his picture there, Tyler. We're getting to the guy that I have the picture of at some point. But Sean McDermott was born in 1883, became a member of the Irish Republican Brotherhood in 1906, and became appointed to the Irish Republican Brotherhood Supreme Council in 1908 as the national organizer. In 1913, he was elected secretary of the Supreme Council. Now, McDermott and Clark, the last week of July 1914, are going to accept an arms delivery to Ireland. Within 1 week, July 24th, July 26th, something like that. What happens like 6 days later?
World War I.
World War I, right? The ultimatum is over.
It sounds like World War I starting right around.
So, what else is going to stall out because of the beginning of the First World War? Remember 2 years ago what happened?
Oh, yeah, home rule. Now the British aren't going to.
That's null and void at that point.
Home rule is now dead, right? Because the British now don't give a shit about that island, and they're all in looking to the east. So slowly, though, while this is going on, right, while the British are looking eastbound, these military organizations, these secret military organizations, are starting to grow more and more fervor and support in Ireland. And one of these newer members that joins one of these organizations is, flash the picture up. There he is. There he is.
Who is that?
Anybody out there that might be watching could name this fella? Give it a second here. We'll see if anybody can name this fella. But when you look at this picture of this guy, what do you think of him? What's some adjectives that come to mind?
Sophisticated. We can start with that one. Dude looks very sophisticated, or he looks contemplative. Maybe contemplative is a better
dignified.
Word. Yeah.
So I'm gonna wait to see if we get any answers on as to who, if anybody could name this chap, I would be.
Looks like he works for the government.
Other than the person that shares my name, I mean, he could chime in, but if there's anybody else out there that
no, he's got it.
Did he already comment?
There it is. He got it. Patrick Pierce.
Patrick Pierce. Patrick Pierce, born 10 November 1879, 27 Great Brunswick Street in Dublin. By 1900, he's a secretary of the Publications Committee of the Gaelic League, right? This organization that wants Gaelic and wants the language to be important, right? This whole idea is to connect the modern Irish person to Hibernia, to the Gaelic language, to the Gaelic culture, right? They're going back and trying to connect with everything about what makes Irish people Irish, right? And by 1903, he's the editor of the paper of the Gaelic League. 1908, he forms a school for young boys called St. Enda's. They move out to another building. He gets a helper with him there. So, by the way, we got three names so far, right? Thomas Clark, Sean McDermott, Patrick Pierce.
Okay. Right? Tracking.
Number 4 is Tomas McDonough, who becomes the helper teacher to Pierce at St. Enda's. Assistant headmaster in 1905. McDonough has a friend. Number 5, Joseph Mary Plunkett, born in 1887, who had, by the time 1916 rolls around, he has bovine tuberculosis.
Ooh. Bovine tuberculosis, like from a cow?
Bovine tuberculosis.
Wow. Okay. Didn't even know that was a thing. I learned. If I'm learning a whole bunch, I'm going to take away today that bovine tuberculosis is a thing.
As one person described him with all his ill health, he was like, quote, as emaciated as a Spanish saint in his prison cell at Toledo, is how Plunkett was once described.
Okay.
The many things that can kill you in Ireland.
You have Thomas J. Clark, right? Sean McDermott, Thomas McDonough, Joseph Mary Plunkett, Patrick Pierce. Let's name one of the others. Number 6 is Eamon Kent, right? Born 1881.
I don't have pictures of these people. I'm sorry. I just have Patrick
No, we
Pierce.
don't.
We can put him back in case. Yeah, there you go. There's
All that matters.
There you go.
There are some that Pierce never marries, but some might say that Pierce only had one true love in this entire 2 loves. Right? One love was his mother, and the other was Ireland. Right? Pierce's father was a sculptor for Catholic churches, and sculpted a whole bunch of sculptures. He had a brother named Willie and a couple other brothers and sisters, but we're really worried about Patrick and Willie. Patrick's middle initial is H.
Okay. Just H.
Okay. Just no. There's a name.
Okay.
Patrick H. Pierce. What does the H stand for? Don't answer. Folks that are listening, what do you think the H stands for?
Can I take? It's not
learning. This guy who's going to launch this massive, who's going to inspire a massive change in the world by creating a new country, basically, or die in the process. Right? He believes that he's going to die for this to happen.
I'll guess Hibernia, but I don't think that's right.
That's what I guessed too. I was like, that's.
So this fellow who's about to inspire a new nation, who believes in this revolution.
Hamilton?
Patrick Henry.
Oh, I actually didn't.
Okay. How?
So give me liberty or give me death.
Walt makes me feel a lot better for guessing Hibernia.
Patrick Henry Pierce, right? Patrick Henry Pierce, give me liberty or give me death. So let's go back to the 6 names we have so far. Do you remember them?
Patrick Pierce.
Pierce, McDonough. 2 McDonoughs.
There's 2
There's McDermott.
That's okay. I had that.
Yeah.
Thomas J. Clark.
Who was the one that had bovine tuberculosis?
Joseph Mary Plunkett.
Okay.
And then Eamon Kent. Eamon Kent played, at one point, he played an uilleann pipe for Pope Pius X, devout Catholic, 1908. So, I mean, these guys love theater. These guys love plays. These guys love their country, right? And so they're trying to grow these new, older organizations. And pretty soon they're going to attract the attention, or attempt to attract the attention of a 7th person. And his name, Walt, is?
James Connolly.
James Connolly, a socialist from Scotland. And Mr. Connolly was a member of the IWW in America in 1905. Right? So he was a union guy.
Okay.
And in 1913, he created the Irish Citizen Army. So you have the Irish. Let's start first with the Ulster Volunteers, right? The Ulster Volunteers, pro-England, anti-Home Rule. Irish Volunteers, pro-Ireland, anti-Home Rule. Irish Republican Brotherhood, the Fenians. Irish Citizen Army, socialism from James Connolly, right?
Anthony, let me
later on you get. Wait a second, one more. Yeah. And then you get the Women's Organization, which is Coming 'em On, right? Which is not spelled as it's pronounced. Coming 'em On, but look it up online. So this is the organizations we have floating around. It's 1914. There's a shipment that comes. England's now turned one way, and these people, real quick, Walt, before you saw me out here, they're all these folks are going to meet. All 7 of these people are going to meet on 9 September 1914 in Dublin, where they are going to decide that they are going to revolt. They're going to hold a rebellion before the end of the war. So they have decided by 1914 that there will be a rebellion. Because again, England's what's the saying there? England's difficulty is Ireland's opportunity, right? So here's the difficulty. Let's strike while the iron's hot.
Anthony, I did want to ask you. You mentioned a couple people who had definitely Catholic roots, like his father was a sculptor of churches, for example. But some others, like with the labor and socialist organizations of Connolly, who definitely seem more on the secular end. How much would you say the infamous, of course, Catholic and Protestant divide that would define much of the later 20th century in Northern Ireland was defining politics at that time, or was there a mix? Because my 1848 research did turn up some Catholics and Protestants fighting side by side on the Irish independence end, as compared to what would happen in the later 20th century.
Well, on a surface, let's just talk real quick on a surface level there. There's no doubt in my mind that Pierce himself did not see him anything else other than a martyr, a Catholic martyr.
Oh, so he's all in.
Right?
He's all in for this, yeah.
And we'll dig into that a little bit, but I mean, Grant, there's the vast majority. So in 1913, when the Irish Volunteers are created, they split, right? And many of them go with England.
Mm-hmm.
So there's probably a lot of your Protestants right there.
Yeah.
Right? But at its heart, I think this movement is Catholic.
Yeah. Well, and it makes sense that as the English government went from no olive branch at all policy to potential home rule at some points, that Protestants that might have once been interested in breaking away would see that as a palatable option more than the Catholic majority would.
I hear you on that.
Yeah.
So let's jump to 1915. So we're edging ourselves closer and closer. Real quick, in March of 1914, Pierce predicted, quote, that before this generation has passed, the volunteers will draw the sword of Ireland. So these people really want to do some sort of violence, right? And they get sort of their chance in the summer of 1915. So in the summer of 1915, one of these Fenians, Jeremiah O'Donovan Rossa, dies in New York.
Okay.
And Tom Clark, this leader that everybody's really coalesced, this older Fenian, calls up New York and says, "Bring his body to England. We're not burying him there. You're burying him here in Ireland, right?" Mm-hmm. And Clark and all these 7 members of this council start to put together a massive funeral. And Clark needs a speaker at this funeral. And who he goes for is Patrick Henry Pierce, to try to bring these people together around this idea of violence. Can we put that picture up?
Pierce or the one next to it? The second one. This one?
The funeral.
The funeral, sorry. There we go.
So they're gathered around the grave of Jeremiah O'Donovan Rossa. You can see in there, you can see James Connolly pretty clearly. He's the fella, well, to me, he's very visible. Pierce is visible. Pierce's head is partially visible behind the fellow with the black to the left. As we're looking at him, to the right of the fellow with the black is Connolly with sort of the green jacket. And other members are in there too, but Patrick Pierce makes a speech, right? And I'm going to just say pieces of it. I propose to you then that here, by the grave of this unrepentant Fenian, we renew our baptismal vows, that here by the grave of this unconquered and unconquerable man, we ask God, each one for himself, such high and gallant courage, such unbreakable strength of soul as belonged to O'Donovan Rossa. We stand at Rossa's grave not in sadness, but rather in exultation of spirit, that it is given to us to come thus into closer communion with that brave and splendid Gael. Splendid and holy causes are served by men who are themselves splendid and holy. So what's he doing? He's trying to create a martyr out of Rasa, right? Even though Rasa didn't get killed, he's trying to create this holy spirit around him.
And he died in any political way? Like he died in prison or anything, or just natural causes?
Nope,
No. Okay.
This is a place of peace, sacred to the dead, where men should speak with all charity, with all restraint. But I hold it a Christian thing to hate evil, to hate untruth, to hate oppression, and hating them to strive to overthrow them. Our foes are strong and wise and wary, but strong and wise and wary as they are, they cannot undo the miracles of God, who ripens in the hearts of young men the seeds sown by the young men of a former generation. Rulers and defenders of realms had need to be wary if they would guard against such processes. Life springs from death, and from the graves of patriot men and women spring living nations. The defenders of this realm have worked well in secret and in the open. They think that they have pacified Ireland. They think that they have purchased half of us and intimidated the other half. They think that they have foreseen everything. They think that they have provided against everything. But the fools, they have left us our Fenian dead. And while Ireland holds these graves, Ireland, unfree, shall never be at peace.
So he's definitely trying to rally the troops, as one would say.
They're ready to kill somebody. Right? They're ready to do something. Pierce has now become the director of military organization for the IRB. Joseph Plunkett's the director of military operations. Eamon Kent is the director of communications. Thomas McDonough is the director of training. And they're creating an army. They're creating a paramilitary organization here between the Irish Volunteers and the Irish Citizen Army. It's now slowly just becoming a time of when, right? Mm-hmm. And at one point, Joseph Plunkett and a guy named Roger Casement, who was a dude who did some stuff, humanitarian, go to and flash the question up we got earlier.
Any other countries?
So Joseph, Mary Plunkett, and Roger Casement go to the one country they believe will want to help them.
Germany.
Yeah. Thinking that, hey, we're the back door, right?
To some extent, the Russian revolutionaries do the same thing. Like Germany pays for, I think, their train trip back to try and overthrow the Russian provisional government in 1917. So the logic makes sense.
So this is April of 1915. They come up with a plan which would set out a rebellion that included the seizure of Dublin and a German naval invasion to land 12,000 troops and 40 rifles in Limerick, where they would be distributed and ignite a countrywide revolt. Boom, 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 right? Something that never happens, but, there's a chance that this could happen. And so we're slowly gathering speed. We're all slowly gathering speed, right? We're moving. And screw it. Let's just jump ahead. Let's jump to 110 years ago. Let's jump to 110 years ago today, right? April 23rd, 1916. It's decided that this armed rebellion across the country, across the nation, is going to happen on Easter Sunday, April 24, 1916. There is a ship inbound from Germany with firearms. And it is supposed to arrive on Holy Thursday or Good Friday. Well, as it's approaching, it's flying a non-German flag. And a British naval vessel finds it. And it's like, yoo-hoo. Meanwhile, there are messages that we're trying to get to that boat to be like, hurry up, or where the hell are you? But they're circling around because they get there a little bit early, and nobody knows that. The British Navy intercepts it, and the captain takes the ship, drives it somewhere, and scuttles it with all the rifles on board.
Ooh,
right.
So there's Germany's help thrown out the window. Granted, they're old guns, right? But it's still the help out the window. Roger Casement eventually will get arrested, and he'll end up getting executed later. But can you flash the newspaper clipping No, not that. I don't know if you have the newspaper clipping. It's the orders.
I do not have the newspaper
Yeah.
clipping. No.
So basically, what ends up happening is Owen McNeill, the chief of staff of the Irish Volunteers, sends out a message across the country on April 23rd saying all maneuvers, all parades are canceled for Easter.
Because they don't have the weapons.
And he thinks it's going to fail.
Right.
So, what happens? The 7 members of the council, Clark, McDonough, McDermott, Pierce, Plunkett, Connolly, Kent, 7, all gathered, and back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, and they come up with the idea to do what? Delay the rising one day.
Doesn't seem like it's going to do a whole heck of a lot.
Because the news is already around the damn country.
Mm-hmm.
Stop, right? And they're told to delay it
one day.
One day.
I mean, I guess from everything you've said, there is that sense of urgency. So they feel like maybe there's a window for lost opportunity by not continuing with their plan. We'll see how it plays out, obviously, but I'm curious as to why they were so adamant that it had to only be a day and they couldn't. Was there something else pressing that was going to cause this to not ever happen? Are they going to get?
I mean, maneuvers. I mean, it was already moving.
Okay,
right?
so it's in motion. It's in motion.
The British will figure out that they were planning something.
Right. Even that boat that was captured from the British intercept, the German vessel, like, I mean, or anybody on that, you said someone got tried from that. They were executed later on for.
Later on.
Okay.
Yeah, that's Roger. Yeah, the guy who helped to make that happen.
Okay.
But the captain of the ship just takes the boat and sends it down to.
Okay.
Are there any folks online that want to ask questions? Feel free to leave them in the chat. I think now's a good time to take a quick pause because we're about to start.
No, keep rolling, dude. You're doing great. This is fascinating. If people have questions, I'm happy to throw them up on the screen while we're moving and we can address them. But yeah, keep moving.
Alrighty, April 24th, 1916. Proclamation. Don't put it up there yet. There's a proclamation that is printed. They all gather and they're going to target different buildings. Can we put the map?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so what are they going to hit? What are they going to hit? I mean, this one, damn it. This one, I found this on Google right before, and I didn't realize that it had a key. I thought it was just circles on there, but
so Dublin Castle seems like the clear.
You can see what they're going to hit, right? Let's look at that for a second. What are they hitting? Well, any idea what the forecourts are? Forecourts are the heart of justice, judicial process, right? City Hall, Dublin Castle, right? You have the Irish heart and you have the British heart of rule in Ireland. And you have the general post office, right? The post office, communications, right? So what they're not really hitting are train stations.
At their exit
What they're
ramp?
not really hitting.
Yeah.
That's their exit ramp, right? Train stations?
No,
that's the British entrance ramp.
Oh.
That's the entrance.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
So, this is symbolically hitting these different areas. What else are they going to hit? They're going to hit a bread factory. They're going to hit random stuff. But
yeah, College of Surgeons. Like, don't you think?
Well, we'll get into that. We'll get into that in a second. That wasn't the original plan. Liberty Hall is where they start. So the morning you've got. So it's broken up into different. Which paper is that? Broken up into different battalions, right? Ned Daly, commander of the 1st Battalion, he's going to take 250 men, go to the forecourts. Thomas McDonough is going to take about 200 guys. Notice the numbers; very small numbers. Only 1,000 or so, right? A couple thousand, if that. What could have been and what were are two different things, right? Numbers. What was that?
Sorry, I may have put something down for a second. Continue.
Tomas McDonough is going to the biscuit factory, Jacob's Biscuit Factory, where the plan was to have people make bread for the rest of the week. But when you have armed guys running in, all the workers bolted. Right? So no bread for you. Eamon de Valera is going to go to Boland's Mill, Boland the factory right there. Eamon Kent, the South Dublin Union. Do we see that over to the left? The Irish, so those are all Irish volunteers. The Irish Citizen Army, Sean Connolly's people, they're going to go to City Hall and ultimately Dublin Castle. There's also a group from the ICA that go to Stephen's Green. You can see that. And then you have the headquarters battalion, which is going to march to the GPO. So roughly 12 o'clock or so on the 24th of April, 1916, Tom Clark and McDermott take a taxi to the GPO. Plunkett also gets there late, but everybody else marches to the GPO. And 12 o'clock, they run in, and all the people that are in the post office are looking around, being like, who are these cosplayers? Right? Who are these people? Who are these people? And then they start shooting, and they're like, oh my God, this is real. Right? And they start taking people, and they start breaking out windows and everything. And a little bit after that, go back to our picture of Pierce, if you would. Irish men and Irish women, in the name of God and the dead generations from which she receives her old tradition of nationhood, Ireland, through us, summons her children to her flag and strikes for her freedom. Pretty powerful, right? The proclamation, can you throw the proclamation on there?
To what extent is this getting out to the people of Ireland? Is it going out across telegraphs, any newspapers?
He walks out in front of the building.
Right.
Irish men and Irish women.
Saying,
okay. I mean, they start plastering around the city, but he walks out and goes and starts speaking this into existence. This is basically the Declaration of Independence.
Interesting.
Basically the Declaration of Independence.
Does this get any traction when he starts doing this at all? Did the public welcome this, or are they?
There's like a handful of people hanging around, like booing and like just not knowing what the hell's going on.
Right.
I mean, you have all this planning, and then everybody that's hanging around is just like, what the hell's going on?
Like, he's not getting some standing ovation for like standing out there and reading this proclamation, and they hear you.
As one person wrote, his magnetism had left him. The response was chilling. A few thin, perfunctory cheers. No direct hostility, but no enthusiasm whatsoever.
Okay.
I feel like we're in an era at this point of after one tipping point in mass communications, but before another. Like, we're post telegraph machine.
Yeah, it's it's that
communication.
weird,
but we're before like if Patrick Pierce had been like 20 years later, he's gonna be able to get on the radio if he is able to seize that method of communication, or television later on. But I feel like here, from what I've heard, I'm not sure if they've really used mass communications successfully for their little revolt after the newspapers called off the big revolt a few days earlier. So,
I love this line. Oh. We declare the right of the people of Ireland to the ownership of Ireland and to the unfettered control of Irish destinies to be sovereign and indefeasible. The long usurpation of that right by a foreign government has not extinguished the right, nor can it ever be extinguished except by the destruction of the Irish people. I love that one. He goes on to talking about universal suffrage as well.
Yep.
Really?
But of course, it's a big movement at that point.
Yeah, it is.
All children of the nation are equal.
Yeah.
Right?
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Very interesting.
So within an hour, he's out there. Irish men and Irish women in the name of God and of the dead generations. And then what happens? Well, pull the map back up. Everything starts to like go a little bit haywire. that group that was going after the city hall, right? They go across the street to the castle, and remember, this is holiday. A lot of the people are out of town at the horse races, right? They go over to the castle. The first person really killed in the rising is a policeman, James O'Brien, who's killed at the castle. They don't succeed in taking the castle. They end up going back to the city hall, and many of those guys it's a failed movement there. The commander there, Sean Connolly, is killed. To the southeast of that, or to the bottom left of that, Stevens Green. Their plan, it's basically a park with tall buildings around it. So what do you think they take control of? The ground or the tall buildings?
And to say,
Judging by the way things are going, I'm guessing they end up taking control of the ground.
They take the park and they start digging a trench. The British military ends up showing up with machine guns on the top of the building.
Yeah, I was just saying.
Like,
I was thinking they may be the ones that take something smart, but if they're taking the ground, that's horrible.
Yeah. So on the morning of the 25th, the British military is like, look, and then they that's where you get to control the College of Surgeons, right? They run to the College of Surgeons. By 4 o'clock the next day, there's nearly 3,000 British soldiers in Dublin. Okay, so they basically have 3-1 odds against the revolutionaries, the Republicans. There is a time where a whole bunch of British cavalry ride up the road in front of the GPO and they're fired upon. So the British military is retreating in the face of the Irish people. So that's got to mean something, right? Think about that. You're in this, you've taken over the British government's communication center in Dublin, and you've just sent the British military running. Right? How about that for spirit?
Mm-hmm.
Is that pretty cool? I think that would be for those folks in that building that are like, what's going to happen?
It's a morale boost for sure.
And then Wednesday, you have a gunboat that arrives. And you have more people that start arriving. Helga,
you never see
Helga. That's
great. You never want to see Helga.
No.
It's not on here, but Sean Houston's garrison at the Mendicity Institute held out against 400 soldiers. He was the first to surrender without being overrun, holding up troops from Kingsbridge Station to the Four Courts. And Kingsbridge now bears his name, Houston Station, so I think that's pretty cool as well. On the other side, you have near Northumberland Road, right, Mount Street Bridge over there. Sherwood Foresters marching into the town. Rebels in 25 Northumberland Road opened fire. 10 fell in the first volley. As one person said, those who managed to get by the house ran towards the bridge and took cover anywhere they could, on house steps, behind trees, and channels on the roadway. As they were killed, the next fellow moved up and passed the man killed in front of him. This gave the impression of a giant human khaki-colored caterpillar. You hear me on that?
That's an interesting description. I mean, way to be descriptive.
That's something. And they're going up against the buildings. So these folks, Sherwood Foresters, right? These people that were training to go fight in Germany or France, right? Trench warfare. They're just making frontal assaults against this building.
Oof.
That's holed up with a whole bunch of revolutionaries. The battalion commander in that area, remember Eamon de Valera, who's holed up at Boland's Mill, Boland's factory, didn't send any help. And the British start using machine guns and grenades. As one rebel wrote, the casualties were so great that I at one time thought we had accounted for the entire British army in Ireland. What a thought, what a joy, what a day. A lot of their losses was their own fault. They made for sitting ducks for amateur riflemen, but they were brave men, and I must say, clean soldiers. In that area, 230 British soldiers were killed or wounded. William Lowe, a British general, arrives. He orders martial law, and the British military just starts to bombard the crap out of Dublin. And the 25th, the next guy comes in, and a fellow named Sir John Maxwell arrives, and his orders were to take such measures as may, in your opinion, be necessary for the prompt suppression of the insurrection.
And the 25th,
the most vigorous.
The 25th is the day after.
Well, so 24th is the first day, 25th is the second, Wednesday is the 26th, Thursday is the 27th.
So I would ultimately say that the British have
So
kind
we're
of
still
reacted fairly quickly.
fairly quickly, right? As Maxwell writes, the most vigorous measures will be taken by me to stop the loss of life and damage to property which certain misguided persons are causing in their armed resistance to the law. If necessary, I shall not hesitate to destroy any buildings within any area occupied by the rebels. What's the next photo I have, Tyler? Is there any more? Curious if any more are on there.
Barricades.
So I mean, there's just pandemonium throughout the city, right? There's a rebel barricade. The British Army sets up barricades. There's mass looting. Right? It's just nuts in the whole city. If you go back to the map real quick, the South Dublin Union. You see that over to the left?
Yep.
That's a facility that held 3,200 staff and patients. There's a 120-man garrison there. The size compared to what's there, right? Cattle Brew, the vice commandant over there, was wounded nearly 25 times during the week. In the GPO, one rebel wrote on the Thursday that, quote, the everlasting wait for the unexpected is terrible, nerve-wracking. Machine guns stutter irregularly from all sides and add to the growing uproar. That same rebel the next day wrote, the weather is sunny. On the opposite side of the street, nothing is left of the building save the bare walls. Clouds of gray smoke are wreathing around everywhere, and it is difficult to see as far as the bridge. You can see how far the bridge is in that map there. Occasionally, some wall or roof falls in with a terrific crash. A heavy odor of burning cloth permeates the air. The pitiless sun illuminates the swaddliness and horror of the destruction. One Dubliner wrote on the Friday, this morning there are no newspapers, no bread, no milk, no news. Guns do not sound so bad in the day as they do at night. No person can feel lonely while the sun shines. So it's depressing, right?
Yeah.
It's pretty depressing.
Yep.
What's going on? Patrick Henry Pierce puts out a speech manifesto on the night of the Friday. Let me who have led, can you put his picture on?
He's up.
Let me who have led them speak in my own and in my fellow commanders' names and in the name of Ireland present and to come, their praise, and ask those who come after them to remember them. For 4 days they have fought and toiled almost without cessation, almost without sleep, and in the intervals of fire they have sung the songs of freedom of Ireland. No man has complained, no man has asked why. Each individual has meant himself, happy to pour out his strength for Ireland and for freedom. If they do not win this fight, they will at least have deserved to win it. But win it they will, although they may win it in death. They may win it in death.
Sounds like he's committed.
Well, the GPO's on fire. James Connolly's been shot. Everything's caving in, and these folks have to go, to another place. They're going to end up at a place called Moore Street, Moore Street. There's a charge at Moore Street. A guy named V. O'Reilly gets killed in that. They take over another building on Moore Street, and the decision is finally made. We got to surrender.
Right.
The decision is finally made. We got to surrender, and they surrendered. Right. So within a week, this is all over. Right. In order to prevent the further slaughter of Dublin citizens in the hope of saving the lives of our followers, now surrounded and hopelessly outnumbered, the members of the provisional government have agreed to an unconditional surrender, and the commandants of the various districts in the city and country, there was like 3 other small uprisings, will order their commands to lay down their arms. 485 people died during Easter week. 54% of the total were civilians, 26% British troops, 16% rebels, and 4% police.
So there's a heavy civilian casualty toll with this one.
62 rebel dead, 30 arrested, 132 government forces killed, 256 civilians killed.
Okay.
And as one of the people that's now going to be arrested wrote, we were all ready to meet God.
You know, with that heavy toll of civilian casualties, it's kind of hard to get the public on your side. You know what I mean? I can see there being some very negative reactions to that. I mean, when you're trying to accomplish a revolution like that and you're wiping out civilians, that's not conducive to your revolution, I would think.
Well, Anthony, how long would you say it takes for there to be like today we kind of remember the Easter Rising as the prelude to the ultimate revolution and civil war that would come within the next really over within about 6 years. When would you say that the Easter Rising starts to be, is it immediately a rallying cry, or does it take a little while because of the factors that Tyler's talking about?
Let me come on to that here real quick,
Okay.
Walt. There's going to be. Do you have the picture with the wall with the cross?
I do.
Yes. So Kilmainham Jail, right? That's the scene of the executions that are about to happen. 16 executions happened there. First three were Clark, McDonough, and Pierce. Remember Pierce saying that he was willing basically to die. He made a speech during his quote-unquote trial where he said, "I went down on my knees as a child and told God that I would work all my life to gain the freedom of Ireland. I have divided my duty as an Irishman to fight for the freedom of my country." I mean, he knows he's going to die, right? And he does. These folks, well, there's a series of Pierce's brother Willie gets killed, not really for any reason other than the fact that he's his brother, right?
It's trapped into it.
Yeah.
It doesn't really do anything. He's not one of the leaders of the rising. He's his brother, right? John Redmond warned Herbert Henry Asquith, "If any more executions take place in Ireland, the position will become impossible for any constitutional leader or party." Asquith warned Maxwell, "Anything like a large number of executions would sow the seeds of lasting trouble in Ireland." Thousands are arrested, right? Thousands are arrested. Go to the next picture. Is there one more?
There is not. That's the last one I've got.
One of the so De Valera, right? Eamon De Valera. He's one of the leaders of these battalions. All the others are executed. Why isn't De Valera? His parents are American. If we kill De Valera, what are the Americans going to do to the British?
Cut off aid.
So, at the bare bones, this dude Maxwell is killing everybody left and right, and then sanity comes in. You kill them, you're going to hell to pay.
Mm-hmm.
In the next election, Sinn Féin, which has 0 seats in the Irish Parliamentary Party in Parliament, gets 73.
So it's starting to do something.
0 to 73.
Yeah.
0 to 73, one election. The aide de camp for Joseph Mary Plunkett, dude named Michael Collins, arrested. De Valera, arrested. Two guys that are polar opposite sides of the treaty debate, right? They get their start here. So this future of what Ireland's going to be, Walt, comes rapid electoral victory from nothing, and then having these two guys fighting in Dublin,
So I might try it in America. Sorry.
Yeah.
I was going to say I might try on
Hit me with it.
Yeah, I was going to try on an American historical analogy that might I don't know if it'll illuminate it or confuse it, but I from what I've been hearing, I think it's appropriate. Patrick Pierce in particular to John Brown, revolutionary abolitionist, right before the American Civil War. So also kind of like some of the mistakes we've been hearing from Pierce, I would say, like doesn't come in with the best short-term plan in the world to achieve his goals in the Harper's Ferry rebellion, like lets the train through toward Frederick. DC gets alerted. There, like the government is on him pretty quickly within 36 hours in that case, and he gets captured and eventually executed. But within 6 years, he will have other people will have largely accomplished his goal.
It's over.
The other way I would link the two is to some extent like they are almost the purest version of what would eventually come. Like Anthony has once shown me an Irish television series which ends up kind of fantasizing about Patrick Pierce taking being the person in charge of Ireland later on. And in that version, like
I love that
in that
show.
What
version,
show is it?
everyone's speaking Gaelic, right? And like if John Brown had had his way on everything, I mean, he had a provisional constitution just like and a Declaration of Independence like the Irish did, and he might have been a very purist version of abolitionism. Whereas in both cases, the war gets won and the large scale goals, end of slavery, Irish independence, are achieved. Maybe not the
The way they
utopia
wanted it
that
to, yeah.
Pierce or Brown were thinking they were creating, but ultimately a large something real really did get accomplished.
Yeah.
So the name of the show Walt's referencing is called Wrecking the Rising.
Wrecking the Rising.
It's completely in Gaelic. There's subtitles. Completely in Gaelic. It's hilarious. I mean, the friggin' show starts with these three reenactors of the Easter Rising. One who pretends he's Patrick Pierce. They get teleported back. Within the first couple minutes of being teleported back, they freaking kill the real Patrick Pierce. Right? It's hilarious. The dude who's about to start this revolution, they kill the guy. And now you have this guy that is pretended to be Patrick Pierce in the modern sense. I love the very end of it. They play the Bruce Springsteen. In the middle of the GPO, they're singing the Bruce Springsteen song, "Come On Up for a Ride." And that finishes the show. It's hilarious.
I forgot about that. That's
it's
funny.
freaking hilarious.
I love that.
A great song to listen to related to this is called "The Foggy Dew."
Okay.
It tells the story of these people. There's also a song called "Grace," which is about Joseph Plunkett's wife, which is good. Some say that Patrick Pierce is gay. I don't know.
Was he a lifelong bachelor? Or was he married?
Yeah. I will say that I was very happy a couple weeks ago, a couple days ago, was at a bookstore. And so how I got into this real quick, many years ago, we were at a miniature show at Fairleigh Dickinson University in Teaneck, New Jersey. And of course, I was not at that point interested in the toy soldiers. I was like, look, books. And Osprey books are really awesome.
They are awesome.
Right? Expensive, awesome books. And they had this book called The Easter Rising. Like, what the hell is Easter Rising? Read it, tore it apart, wrote it, yada, yada, yada. Was in Dublin for the 100th anniversary. But like
that's cool. That's cool.
Got to go to the GPO and all that. And then a couple of days ago, I'm in McKay's, and I'm like, McKay's finally has books. I mean, they're usually sold out. They have books. I tried to go to return some, but they were too late I was too late. And I'm like, well, I guess I'll help the American economy a little bit here. And I found the book. The book. So this is a great one. And then if folks are looking for another great book on the rising.
I am actually. You got me a little intrigued to where I want to read more on it.
Come on up for a ride. And we got this one.
Rising.
Okay. The Centenary Edition.
Is that what you would say is like probably the most comprehensive that you've read so far? That's that one. Okay.
Yeah. This is like a military history of Easter.
Oh, sweet. Okay.
And you can see.
Yeah, it's a little bigger.
You got James Connolly on the bottom. Right?
Yeah, look at that.
Joe Plunkett over there, and then the boss. Well, Clark, and then the boss. Right there.
Awesome.
Anyway, there you go.
Well, both of you, thank you guys so much for coming on.
Any questions?
I haven't seen any roll through, and we have reached our hour, so I'm gonna go ahead and wrap this up if that's okay with you guys. But before I even do that, no, this was incredible. Like I said, you've really given me the want to kind of learn more about this. Now I have a to be read pile from hell that I need to get through. But Easter, yeah, that would be cool.
Good book.
Both of you, seriously, thank you guys for coming on, especially for the first one back. Like this was a really cool episode and a topic.
I wish Walt's camera worked.
I know. Well, next time
we'll figure that out next time.
Yeah.
I've been looking at why this entire time, wondering why it doesn't work. Get it?
So you're going to continue this trend of closing us out with what Darren would call Christmas cracker jokes, huh? I like it. But folks watching at home, if you're watching live, thank you so much. If you're listening later on Spotify or YouTube, also thank you so much for checking us out and learning a little bit about the Easter Rising. This was my first foray into it. I had gone into this again with no knowledge whatsoever, and now with both Walt and Anthony graciously describing that in a very good detail too. But got a little more knowledge on that now. So again, thank you both so much for popping on, and folks, we will